I think many of our European societies nowadays, and also in Germany, when can we put a period to talking about the Holocaust, just start afresh and forget about the past and start something new. And I always think about the people who still remember those years, who have grown old. The youngest Holocaust survivors in Ukraine are 74 now, who were born in 44 when the war ended. And just put yourself in their shoes. You're a senior person. If you have any family, they are far away, and you go to sleep at night. And I mean, it's psychologically proven, the older you get, the lonelier you get. All the memories from your childhood will be coming back. And oftentimes you're alone with that. And I feel as long as somebody is still alive who still has nightmares from the Holocaust, we are not done with it. But not in a matter of constantly feeling guilty, because for me, as a Christian believer, I have a place to take my guilt, my personal guilt, and also the guilt of my forefathers and of my nation. And without the Jewish Messiah, Jesus, we wouldn't be able to help, because nobody can carry the weight of that guilt. But then, as you have this encounter with a Jewish Messiah, the picture changes from what do we owe because of our historical guilt to the Jewish people, and it changes to, if we love the Lord, what can we do to make him happy, and what can we do to make his beloved people happy? And it's suddenly not so much a question of what do we owe, but what can we do? It's a historic opportunity. And you know, my grandfather, he was 19 and he was drafted into the German army, and they put a gun in his hand and sent him to the Eastern Front. And he also spent 2 weeks in Ukraine. The only thing he would ever say about it is, in Kiev I ran for my life, and then he would start sobbing, and that was the end of what he ever shared about the war. But I realized it was a horrible time back then, and I'm not sure he volunteered. There was no such thing as a volunteer army back then, but had he had the opportunity to say yes or no, it's a big question of whether he would really have gone. But he was forced to back in the day, as his entire generation. And today I'm thinking I'm living in a time where God is coming alongside of me and asking, not putting a gun in my hand, but putting love in my hands and asking, would you join in with my desire to comfort my Jewish people? I mean, how can you say no? The country is open, and it has not been open for that long. So some of the things that we have dealt with in Western European countries, also in Germany in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, were locked under the Soviet system, and were not talked about openly until the early 90s. And so much of the commemoration is just becoming accessible now. Archives have just become accessible in the 90s, you know, and so there's still Jewish communities who are fighting for putting up a memorial in places where maybe the neighbors know that there was some shooting there, but nothing has been put up there. And we think there are about 2,000 mass graves in Ukraine that are not that known. And everybody knows about Babi Yar in Kiev, but there are many places, many cities that had their Babi Yar. So the one thing that's important for us is to have the commemoration where people realize, yes, this did happen here, and it should never be repeated. And it needs to be in the back of our minds that this happened as a warning. But the conclusion from that is there are people still alive from that time. And you know, oftentimes after I researched my grandfather's history and the history of his unit, everything that he never talked about, sometimes I wished I could put an arm around him and say, Grandpa, you don't have to carry this burden on your own. You know, we can talk about this, we can pray about things. And he took all the secrets to the grave with him. But then I've been thinking so often, coming to Ukraine, and these people are still there. They can still tell their story, and you can go and you can hug them, and you can allow the love of God to bring some healing to their hearts. And for me, it's such a privilege to be able to share in that and be an instrument for healing.
Alpha,